Hi there, I'm Jamie Taylor. Welcome to Your Health Matters, brought to you by Kingman Regional Medical Center, your community-owned hospital. This program focuses on different programs and services that we offer here at KRMC. I've got an exciting guest with me today, so I hope you'll stay tuned because we'll have a great program for you. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is John Artz. Thanks for being on the show, John.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you're the night nursing supervisor, is that correct? Your
Correct.
title here at KRMC.
Correct.
How long have you been with KRMC?
I came to town in 2006.
Okay, so about going on 7 years
correct.
then? Very good. Where were you before that?
A small town called Antigo, Wisconsin.
What was it? Antigold?
Antigo.
Antigo.
Antigo,
Okay.
Wisconsin. Yes.
I'm from Minnesota originally, so I
Okay.
kind of caught that little bit of course we Midwesterners don't believe that we have an accent, but there are people that claim we do.
Yeah, I agree.
So Antigo, okay, very good. And were you a nursing supervisor there as well?
No, as a matter of fact, I was a dairy farmer. I'm a second career man.
Excellent, very good. So how did you become a nurse then?
When my children went to college, I thought, well, it's a time for me to make a change.
Okay.
Agriculture is a dying industry in
Right.
the United States, so I thought, well, let's look at something else. I tried many things. Everything bored me. And I got into nursing. I said, hey, I like this.
Cool, very good. So you went to school in Wisconsin?
Correct.
Okay, and got your degree, and then how did you end up in Kingman?
I
That's a
looked
big
around
change.
at different hospitals in Arizona, and at that time they were hiring anyone or everyone.
Not just anyone.
Not just anyone, but everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, they were looking for nurses, starved for nurses, and I looked at several different ones, narrowed it down, and Kingman seemed to be the best fit for us.
Oh, very good. So you and your wife moved here then?
Correct.
The kids are still back in Wisconsin? or-
Right.
I kind of did that too. I raised my kids and then I left. That's how you teach your children to be independent.
And that was our thought. When they went to college, we thought that we'll move. That gives them the opportunity to take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. It works well. So.
Of course, they're both still back there. We're gone.
Right, yeah. I've got one still in Minnesota, and another one moved here to Kingman eventually, but
Okay.
after they were all grown up, so
Yeah.
very good. So night nursing supervisor, that's a big job. And I know we talked before the show that our first actual meeting was during one of the incidents where you get called in then when there's crisis and emergency, like the bus accident, things like that. You were already on
I was on
staff
duty that night,
That
yes.
Okay, just happened to get lucky.
That's how you want to say it.
Right. But so as night nursing supervisor, you're in charge of the nurses in ER as well as on the floors, or what is that?
My role is I represent administration at night.
Oh, okay.
Because administration goes home.
Right.
So we pretty much run the house. Anything that comes before us.
Okay, so when everybody else has gone home and sleeping, you step in.
Right. When administration goes home and the directors go home, they throw us the keys and say, okay, see you in the morning.
Well, they're lucky they have someone to do that to.
Well,
Be able to turn that over, because that's a big job.
I like my job.
That's
so.
good. Well, that's good. That makes a huge difference. So part of what we're here to, I know I got a little sidetracked there, but what we're here today to talk about is CPR. And we have a friend you brought with us that we're going to talk about. But what does CPR stand for exactly?
Cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
Okay.
And our goal in CPR is to stimulate the blood flow,
Okay.
to oxygenate the brain, the organs, to
Because they
keep
need
you
the
alive.
oxygen and blood moving
Correct.
to keep things.
Everything in your body needs oxygen.
Okay.
So by doing effective chest compressions,
Mm-hmm.
we can keep that circulation going.
Okay. So now is CPR, I think people think CPR is like if someone has a heart attack, but it could be for other things too, right? I mean, it's
Anyone who's unresponsive.
okay.
If this was a real person laying there. And I went up to them and I said, "Hey, are you okay?" And they didn't answer.
Say
They didn't
yes.
move.
Yeah.
Then we would call for help. That's the first thing I want to do is call for help. Holler
Absolutely.
if there's no one around. I
Yeah.
mean, then you go right into doing CPR because
Okay.
you need to stimulate the circulation.
Oh, right. So now what happens if you are all by yourself and there's no one else, and do you CPR or do you call 911 first and then you start?
If I had a cell phone with me,
Right, that would hopefully.
The first thing
if
I would
you had
do
a
is-
cell phone. I know you don't have one. What do you do in that case, John?
my wife would be with me and she'd have hers.
Very good. Okay, good plan B. Okay,
But I would start with a set of chest compressions. I would do one cycle, then I would call
okay.
because
And
I
then-
want to move some blood around. I want to
keep
bring
it
that
going.
oxygen to the brain and to the organs.
Okay.
Then I would call for 911 because as soon as you can get help here, the better.
Right.
The faster someone else helps you. You can't do effective chest compressions.
Forever.
Effective chest compressions for
Right.
more than 2 minutes.
Oh.
You wear out.
In
This
2
is
minutes?
tiring. This is tiring.
Wow.
And even in 2 minutes, if you were doing effective chest compressions, your last minute is nowhere near as good as the first minute.
Okay. so
Because
you're
our,
gonna- yeah.
our goal here is to push that chest down 2 inches. Because the
Oh,
heart is
wow.
laying down there and it's open like this.
Right.
And I need to compress it
To
to
get.
squeeze the blood out.
Right.
Then I need to let off and let it fill back up. And this is what you're doing when you're doing chest compressions, like wringing out a sponge and letting it fill up. That's what gets it to circulate.
Okay.
And
that
that's
makes
our
sense.
goal, is to circulate the blood.
And it takes a lot of pressure to be able to make that happen.
You need to go down 2 inches.
Wow, that's
A full 2 inches on an adult, yes.
that's a lot.
Correct.
Really, I mean, if you think about it, I never thought that it was that
Right.
much. I didn't think of it.
It
that
isn't.
much.
It isn't the motion of going, "Hey, I'm going like this."
Yeah.
It's to be effective.
Okay, yeah, it's not just
Right.
jumping up and down in someone's
So
chest.
and American Heart wants us to do it at a rate of 100.
100 times.
100 the rate of 100 times a minute. That's our goal.
Going
we
down
want to do
2
at least.
inches 100 times a minute.
You can see why 2 minutes you're tired.
Wow, yeah.
Now, this is the goal and this is the target. This is the perfect scenario.
Okay.
However, if you were at Walmart or something
Mm-hmm.
and you were doing them and you don't have the stamina to do
Mm-hmm.
the 100.
Right.
American Heart is looking at me now and cursing me. However, if you were doing 75 or 70,
It's better than
that's
none.
better than nothing.
Right.
And I always encourage everybody to do something.
Right.
Because if you do nothing, they may
Person's
die.
Right. Okay. And that, of course, and then we kind of talked about that a little bit before the show, is that nowadays, number one, people are sometimes scared to step in for whatever reasons, and part of what we talked about doing the chest compression, you don't have to do that mouth to mouth. Like when I was a kid, that's what they always talked about, was doing mouth to mouth CPR. We don't do that as much anymore.
As a healthcare provider,
Mm-hmm.
we are taught to do that. When I teach classes, this is what I teach.
Okay.
You need to do it. We start with chest compressions. They have made a change about 3 years ago. American Heart every 5 years revamps their program.
Okay.
And about 3 years ago, they revamped it, and we moved from airway breathing circulation, ABC, to CAB, circulation airway breathing.
Breathing,
So
okay.
now what we do is we go through, and if he's unresponsive, we check, we holler for help, we have no pulse, we go right into chest compressions
Okay.
to circulate what blood carrying oxygen is inside, and let's move it around.
Right,
Because there is
okay.
some oxygen in the blood.
That's right, we
There
talked
is
about that.
residual
Okay,
oxygen. So let's move it around.
Okay.
Get the blood flow going.
Okay.
And then that's why a big promotion or the push is to do effective chest
Chest
compressions.
Because that, like you said, it's better than nothing. And hopefully, if you're going to get a professional healthcare provider there quickly,
Correct.
that will then be able to step in and put the oxygen on them. And
And when EMT and the paramedics arrive,
right,
they're the professionals, then you can give way and allow them, but
Yeah,
please
step
do
by.
something.
right, and that is
Please do
important.
chest compressions.
Right, yeah, that
Yeah.
is important. And I think people need to realize that they literally can save a life.
You can.
Anybody could do that. And
Yeah.
stepping in and just, like I said, doing that basic chest compression at least to start. So let's say, as the example, we're in Walmart shopping and we see someone that collapses on the floor in front of us. You just talked about you're going to go up and see if they're responding or not. And then you're going to call for help.
Correct.
Have someone
Correct.
call 911, and then you'll start the chest compression.
Then I would start the chest compressions. And a lot of people are concerned, will they find the proper landmarks? American Heart has taken one step past that. We don't measure anymore. What you do is you move up, lower half of the breastbone is your proper hand placement now.
Okay.
And you just go to it. I want it 2 inches deep in a rate of 100,
Wow.
if you can do it.
Okay. So can you show me what that would look like?
If I was going down 2 inches deep,
Yeah.
and what you want to do is you want to get above them, straight arms, and you want to push down.
Wow.
Now,
obviously,
for
this isn't a good.
For the professional watching this,
They're going to go.
I do not have a backboard
Right.
under him. If I did, the chair wouldn't have pushed down, we'd have went down. But you want to get your arms straight, and with your shoulders, and the top half of your body is
Okay.
how you want to push down on this.
Okay. And obviously, they'd be on the floor or, like you said,
Right,
a
if this
pegboard
guy
that-
collapsed in Walmart, he'd be on the floor, and that is a hard surface.
Right.
You need a hard surface under them.
to be able to get that compression.
If you were at home and your spouse was in bed and you woke up and they were unresponsive, get them on the floor.
Okay, that's a good thing to. Yeah, I'm
Get
glad
'em
you
on the floor.
mentioned that.
If you're doing chest compressions on a mattress, you're
Same thing
compressing
as
the
here,
mattress,
right?
just as we did with this
Okay.
ottoman.
So getting them on the floor on that hard surface is
Correct.
really important.
So when you press down, the chest is compressing 2 inches, and 2 inches is a long ways.
It is. That's so. Wasn't that going to hurt? That's the
Yeah,
first thing I thought of when you
And then
said
that's great. If I push down on him 2 inches and he says stop it,
that. Well, yeah, then you know he's okay.
victory.
Oh,
So that's
that'll
great.
teach you to respond next time.
Correct.
But does it cause? I mean, I don't know if I should even ask it. Does it cause though, like side effects from pushing down that hard
Yes.
later?
Yes. Depending upon the age of the patient, most of the elderly, I will
Yep.
break their ribs.
Okay. But they're
However,
good-
you can heal a broken rib.
Rib faster than a dead heart.
How do you come back from
Right.
being dead?
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean,
That's true.
There's only one person that did, and he's not here this minute.
That's right. Yeah, he's a little busy. He couldn't be on the show today. Okay. Well, that's good. You know, I hadn't thought about that. And I'm sure there's other kind of scenarios where getting people moved to a solid surface is critical. Whether they're in the water, obviously you're going to bring them up on the shore,
Correct.
right? So would being on the shore like sand?
Sand is fine.
fine?
Perfect.
Okay.
Anything that's firm,
Okay.
because you're going to get the whole top half of your body going.
Okay.
You may do this for 15 minutes between
Wow.
you and someone else.
Yeah, hopefully there's someone else to relieve
Correct.
you.
Because, again,
Yeah.
effective chest compressions, you'd have to be a real strong man to do them for more than 2 minutes to
Wow.
be effective.
So even someone like yourself who knows what they're doing, how long do you think you could do it?
When we have a cold in the hospital and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing chest compressions, I'll do 2 minutes, maybe 3,
Okay.
and I'm looking for someone help.
Stepping in.
Yep, and then I'll call for help, and you take your 1 or 2 minute rest, and you're ready to go again.
Again, okay. But you feel like the next day you've had a workout though.
Oh yeah, all my muscles hurt.
I don't need to go to the gym tonight.
all-
I've
all
been
my
there,
muscles
right?
hurt.
Wow, that's amazing. And I have to admit, I never realized, number one, that you go down that far and the kind of things that are involved. Are there other things though that like? Well, we'll probably take. I think we're going to take a break right now, and then we'll come back because I want to ask. There's other things, obviously, besides the chest compression that you need to be aware of, like if their breathing is blocked and some things like that.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll talk about that after the break. Sorry, guys. We'll be back right after these messages, and I'll fill you in on the rest. Thanks. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is John Artz. Thanks again for being on the show, John.
You're welcome.
John, you're the night nursing supervisor here at KRMC, but I didn't mention, I guess, that you also teach CPR classes. That's part of the reason you're on the show today.
Yes, I enjoy teaching CPR classes.
That's excellent. That's really important, obviously, for people to teach them.
It is. Most of the people that I teach here at the hospital have already had it. And some of them have taken CPR classes for 30 years.
So you have to be a healthcare professional, you have to take them over again, right? I mean,
Correct.
how often
Every
is
2
it?
years.
Every 2 years,
We have
okay.
to recertify in CPR.
Okay, very good, that's good to know. But can I, just as a regular consumer, if I feel I would really like to be better prepared in case of an emergency, could I take those classes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You contact our education department, schedule in. We have classes I think it's twice a month on Wednesday and twice a month on Friday. The Friday ones, though, are for the most part for staff members.
Okay.
But on the Wednesday classes,
they're more open to the public.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know, and we'll put that phone number out a little bit later. But we were talking before the break about if someone collapses in front of you, or if you were talking about the Heimlich remover.
it is technically the Heimlich remover, but it's the maneuver.
Okay, so you see someone choking, you're going to hopefully go up and care enough to go up and try to give them the Heimlich to get that dislodged.
Right.
But then what happens if it doesn't come up?
Then if you're doing the Heimlich and the person goes unresponsive,
So they're not
then you go into
breathing.
CPR.
Okay,
Because you've already determined that the Heimlich isn't working.
right.
Now
Whatever it
you're into
was.
the life-saving mode
Okay,
that you've got to keep the circulation moving.
Right.
So we lower the person down to the floor. We go right into the chest compressions.
Okay.
Now you're not giving breaths because he
You're-
was choking. There's
right.
no way for it to go. But as you're doing the chest compressions, you keep looking into their mouth. If you see the piece, whatever they choked on, then you fish it out, and then you can do the whole cycle of chest compressions and breaths.
okay.
But
Now, we
until-
didn't talk about that, about breaths earlier. We
Okay.
just talked about chest. So should we go through that whole process?
I could.
Okay,
The rate, how many compressions a minute we want to give is 100 for everyone.
okay,
The ratio, we do 30 chest compressions and 2 breaths, and that's the ratio we want to do. We always start with compressions now,
okay.
But
So you're going to go 30 and then 2 breaths?
2 breaths.
Okay,
Because you do need to give them oxygen.
okay,
So we'll do the 30 compressions and the 2 breaths. Now, when you get down to an infant or a small child, then if I'm by myself, the ratio is still 30 and 2.
okay.
However, if you came along, now what we'll do is I will go down to 15 for a ratio
Compressions.
and 2 breaths.
Okay,
I will do 15 compressions and you will give them 2 breaths
okay,
when there's 2 of us. But
Right.
that's the only time it changes. And the rate is still 100. We want at least 100 compressions.
wow, so that's 15 into 100. Math is not my strong point here, so is that basically
well,
5?
What I'm doing, right, and what I'm doing is I'm going almost as fast as you can. Because when you're doing it, by the time you go down, you let up, you go down, you let up,
Okay,
you're going right along.
right. And that same kind of pressure on an infant or a
Now,
child?
infant and a child,
Mm-hmm.
that's 1.5 inches you're going down versus the 2 inches because they're smaller, or 1/3. You know, if you have the 8-pound baby or the 7-pound baby, you're not going to go 1.5 inches.
Right, that's almost as big as they are.
Correct. So then you're going 1/3.
Okay.
Whatever
okay,
the child is, you need 1/3 and you need to compress it.
Okay.
Because again, the goal is to stimulate
That heart
circulation.
and keep it pumping. Like you said, that sponge,
Correct.
you mentioned that before the show.
Correct.
So that's good to know. And then in doing the breath, is it still the old where you pinch the nose and?
Yes,
You can
it
tell
is.
it's been a long time since I took a
Yes, it
CPR
is.
class.
Yes, it is.
I think I was in high school, but that was just a couple years ago.
I agree.
Okay, so you're going to press or close the nose and tip the head back, and then it's literally the mouth to mouth.
Preferably if you had a face mask to use.
Right,
Is-
and that's what the
is our
healthcare
preference.
professionals, how the
Right.
EMTs have.
Right, they'll have a face mask. They'll actually come with a bag mask when the paramedics arrive.
Okay,
But a lot of places have AEDs and face
Mm-hmm.
masks in the facility, as I would expect Walmart does.
yep, they do,
And I know
thanks
they
to
do have the
KRMC Foundation. We put one in there for them.
AEDs. All right, great.
Yep,
Get an AED on the person.
okay,
There
That's-
again, that is a lifesaver.
right.
The
So-
AED will do all the work for you, You put the pads on, you keep doing compressions till you get the pads on.
Okay.
And while the pads are on, when the AED tells you, and it'll walk you through the steps,
Right,
it will
right.
say, analyzing, hands off. You stop, because if you continue to do chest compressions,
It thinks the heart's
it
still
thinks the
working.
heart's doing it because you're doing it for it.
Okay.
But no, you stop, it analyzes. If it thinks it needs a shock, if it has a rhythm that it can shock, it will tell you, shock, deliver shock now. Then you make sure everybody has their hands off, because if you're touching them, when
You
the
get the
shock is
shock too?
delivered, you get a free one, yes.
That's a good way to put it. Okay. And then you go back to the chest compression.
Correct. Immediately after the shock, and this is a new thing too for American Heart, we used to wait for it to reanalyze to see if the heart, if
Was-
it captured. But now we go right back into CPR, and the reason for that, beginning with chest compressions, the reason for that is the patient has a sick heart, or they wouldn't have went down in the first
Right,
place. You are
right.
going to help it for the next 2 minutes. And the AED stays on,
Okay.
and it will tell you in 2 minutes. It keeps track. It'll
Right.
say, okay, analyzing now, hands off.
Okay, and then it'll check again, and if it thinks or finds there's a regular heartbeat, then it's gonna let you know that?
It'll tell you.
Okay.
Yes,
So
it
then
will.
you know, step back, and
Yep, yep.
they're still gonna wait for the,
The guy will be okay.
yeah, and we're still
With
waiting
any
for
luck.
the, yeah,
I mean, but
For
you
the
did.
EMT.
You did all you could do.
okay. That's,
And then I always promote, please do something.
right,
Everybody, please do something. You don't have a CPR card, please do chest compressions.
right. And it is that simple. I mean,
Yes.
as far as it is, that one thing can truly make a difference,
That can save their life.
save a life, and that's, of course, very critical, for
Yes.
especially that person. I'm sure they're gonna appreciate it if you stepped in.
And if you think about it, you spend most of your time with your spouse or your children.
Right, so it's mostly gonna.
If they go
more
down,
likely-
you're going to save your loved one.
Right, right, and it is most, like you said, that's where you are the most likely to need that. And I hadn't thought about, till you mentioned it before the break, about if, you're in bed and you wake up in the morning and your spouse is unresponsive next to you, and that, you hear that a lot. So that's, would be a good thing to know that. So people can take this class. You've mentioned our education department gives those classes, and I know their number is 692-4640, because I call them a lot. So someone could call and find out what the schedule is
Correct.
and get them.
And get themselves on the roster.
Okay, and that's important. Now, do we have a charge, for those classes? Just
Well,
curious.
okay, the hospital charges $25 to get your name on the schedule
Mm-hmm.
and to take a book. I have not taught a class, and I don't know if this is our policy or whatever. I have never taught a class where I haven't returned, when they gave their book at the end of the class,
Uh-huh.
that I have not returned their $25
That's kind of making sure they show up, kind of thing.
and to bring back the book,
Right.
because we'll let you use the book to
so
study.
it's kind of like you check out a
And
library
we would
book.
like the book back, right?
Oh.
So I
So you're
have,
doing some pre-homework, kind of
well,
before
you
you
need
start
to,
the
you need to read the book. You do
Okay.
want to stop and read the book. I could get you through the class. I have a friend that actually came from Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Oh,
I moved
I-
out here, and a year later she came out. She's also a nurse. We went to nursing school together,
Oh, very good.
and we teach a lot of classes together.
Okay.
And then the two of us, we could get you through it, and we could teach you. But you would
Without
have
the
a
book.
bit but you would have a better understanding if you did
Okay. So
read
that's
the book.
the process then. Truthfully, we didn't even go through that step by step, but basically, if someone's interested in taking the class, they'll call the education department and then come in to the hospital and pick up their book and put their deposit down.
Correct.
And then they'll come in, they read their book and do their pre-homework, and then come in, take the class. And how long does the class last?
We are scheduled for 4 hours.
Okay.
And depending upon how much instruction, how many new people, and we are willing to take the full 4 hours.
Okay.
Most of my classes, we get you out in 2.5 to 3 hours.
Wow. Okay, so it's 2.5 to 3 hours to learn how to save a
Correct.
life. That's
And-
pretty amazing, really,
And,
John.
and you will, when
Be
you
able
get
to
through it, you will understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Great. Thank you. I've learned a lot today. I appreciate you being on the show. Time always goes fast. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to call education if you'd like more information. I'll see you next week with another exciting guest.